one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're trying not to trip over our bags over here. Okay, next we have approval of the January 29, 2018 minutes. I did not see anything substantive. Did anyone else?
I think it captured it. I would move to approve them as presented.
Bob King seconded it. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all approved. Thank you so much. Okay, next we have citizens' comments, and these are for items not on the agenda. I'd like to come up to the podium and just give your name and address, please. Wow, lots of people. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's go on to the next item. Carroll County Planner. I don't see her yet. Oh, I'm sorry. I bless her heart. I'm sorry. There you are. Come on up, please.
Lurking on the side.
Okay, again, you're gonna really have to work with me on your name, and it is
Nokomis.
Nokomis. Nokomis, thank you for coming this evening.
Native American.
I don't have many updates tonight. I'll be more so looking next meeting for the approval of the bike ped master plan text. We had a nice rezoning, comprehensive rezoning meeting. It's a really good meeting, so we appreciated all the input that we received.
You had a great turnout.
Yeah.
How many people came? I'm sorry, I had another.
I don't actually have a count with me.
I'd say
It was at
it had to
least
be
40, 50, 50.
That's-
50,
Yeah.
60,
That's a
maybe
great-
even 70.
Wow.
Interestingly, the majority, at
Mhm.
least 2/3 to 3/4, were from outside the town boundary. There was a large contingent from South I-70.
Well, that's great.
And so we still encourage people to, if you want to get updates, then you can just sign up on the website, carrollrezoning.org, and sign up for Carroll Connect.
Nokomis, question. MDP is going to be in town in a few days to do their public feedback sessions in Carroll County. They're going to be in Westminster. Do you have any details on that, or if any of us were able to, the actual timing and the location are on their website. But if any of us were able to attend, is there any specific of the 3 sessions that might be more appropriate for a planning commission member?
Yes, so the state is working on their plan, A Better Maryland, which will replace Plan Maryland as the state plan. And they are coming to Carroll County on March 1st to basically talk about that process. There are 3 sessions. There's the session for the staff, a session for public officials. There's a session for the public. I don't have all that with me, but it is on their website. If you go to a Better Maryland's website, I think it's bettermaryland.maryland.org.
It's Thursday, March the 1st, and it's in room 3003 at 22 North Center Street in Westminster, which I think is maybe the government building.
Main building. I think
Yeah,
it's that main building,
the
that
county
side, and go in that
administration
side
building,
entrance.
Where the
Yeah.
planning, the county planning commission. And
Yeah. 2 o'clock is planning staff, 4 is elected and appointed officials, 6 o'clock is public.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So we are taking, I know they are taking all input, so if you have questions, I think I sent Heather an email about it, so there's a contact information on there,
we should go.
I think.
So, do you suggest we go to the one at 4?
Well, 4 o'clock's the elected.
Yeah.
And appointed.
I think
And
we're
appointed.
public.
Yeah,
It says
so,
elected and
Planning
appointed
Commission would be at
on
4
there.
o'clock.
Done. No.
Yeah, 4 o'clock. Yep, you're appointed,
Sounds
absolutely.
good.
No,
I mean, it's the
unfortunately,
state,
I
we're
can
kind
afford
of,
to get in, but-
don't have a lot of information about it. We have
Yeah.
what was in the email, so,
And did everybody get that email?
Yes.
Okay, because mine actually went to clutter, so if you haven't
I
gotten
haven't
it, check
seen
your,
it in mine
check your
as
other
well.
boxes.
I was just checking.
I
Okay,
just
yeah,
have this
check
from
those
last
other
time.
boxes.
I have this from last time.
Yeah.
Is that, but
And-
that's,
The encouraging thing there is that central section where MDP is saying they want feedback from municipal planning commissions as to how we, what do we see them doing as a resource for us? What kind of assistance and so forth? So I'm just not sure how to give it back to them, or at which session.
Well, I think the one at 4, because it
Yeah,
says
I think
appoint.
so.
well, I know I can't make the 4 o'clock, that's,
I can't either.
um,
Can anybody?
Yeah, I mean, I have it on my calendar. I put it on there.
What about 6 o'clock? Can anyone, that's for the public?
Yeah, and you can even, you can attend any of the sessions. My understanding is that they tailor the discussion somewhat depending on
The audience?
your, you know, whether you're public or whether you're appointed or elected or whether it's staff. But, you
Well.
know, it's, and then there's also, because I'm sorry, Nokomis.
Oh, no, you're fine.
March 13th is a listening session, is the same for Frederick County. So Mt.Airy is, you know, has a unique benefit that you can attend either. So, I'm actually forwarding the email to everybody now, just in case you don't.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
If you want, I mean, there are questions here on the one to facilitate the discussion. If you want to send any questions or concerns, I'll be happy to relay them at the
Good.
4 o'clock, 1 to 4.
Okay.
Which one is it?
Well, I'll be at
4
6
o'clock.
o'clock, so if you forward them to me, I'll have them at 6.
Can anyone else make the 6
I'll pr-
o'clock?
I'll
can't.
probably stay, because
I'm-
I'll
I'm not
probably
able to
stay
do
through.
6. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I have
I-
a learning Friday
right.
morning, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just not sure either, and I don't know if I can even get up there. It takes an hour from up where I work, so. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean- but we wanted to make sure everyone knew about it.
No, that's fine. But that was pretty much all that I had, so.
Okay, well, thank you so much, and thank you
You're
for coming.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay, next we have Frederick County. Hi, Tim.
Hello, good evening, Planning Commission members. Heather conveyed a request to me from the commission for a, like a status update of zoning in the area, whoops, sorry. And just some status of development and zoning in the area. So I have a lot of maps to hand out in packets.
And Tim, would you mind kind of keeping that as an ongoing item?
Sure.
So it's just so we don't, you know, so we're not surprised.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, easily done.
And that was kind of a discussion between Roxanne, myself, and Bill, and
Mhm.
Leslie and I, that we kind of always wanted to, like, you know, if someone ever asked us, we usually don't know.
Sure, sure. Yeah, easily done. I have one more set in case the attorney or counsel wants one.
Okay. Got another set?
Wow.
I have one, thank
Thanks.
you, Mr. Bob. Yep.
That was a good
Oh,
shot.
this is nice.
Okay, so because the maps are kind of large, we put the legend in 8.5 by 11.
That's good.
So
Yep.
these are in no special order. Probably should have started with the town and the growth area around the town, but so the first map you see is the Green Valley area. It's generally our well and septic areas. This is the portion of Green Valley that's just south of 70. Kind of Green Valley extends kind of the whole length of the Montgomery County border essentially. But this is the area that's closest to the town, just south of 70, along Bartholow's, and these roads are
Oh,
not
okay.
labeled on here. Bartholow's Road and Bill Moxley Road you see. So the top map is the zoning,
Look at that.
and the bottom map is the comprehensive plan.
Oh,
This area, there was really only one larger piece that was rezoned in 2012, and that's since been subdivided. That's a piece off of Bartholow's, or that's Bill Moxley, sorry, just south of Harvest Ridge. And the other distinction to make there on the bottom map, the comprehensive planning map on the first Green Valley page, is the Harvest Ridge area. That's on a public well and a community wastewater
This?
plant compared to everything else that's on individual wells and private septic systems. So that's the distinction to make on the comp plan map on the bottom.
Tim, can you point that out since it's,
Yeah, I mean, could
Yeah.
you like,
Yeah.
Okay, so yes,
Can you
yeah.
hold that up and
because
Yeah.
we're not,
point
So-
to it?
Yeah, so this is the Harvest Ridge area.
that's what I thought.
Yeah, and the colors, it should be shown as kind of a pale yellow compared to the hatching. Because the underlying map's kind of dark, doesn't come out so well, but it's the area that's the solid yellow as opposed to the yellow hatching.
okay, I see what
And
you're
that's
saying.
all built out on a small, what we call a sub-regional wastewater plant and a water system there. very finite system, not big enough to serve that whole Green Valley area identified here.
Tim,
Mhm.
this area here, which is the Sam Hill Estates and everything,
Uh-huh.
so
Yes, Sam Hill too, yes, that's correct. That's also on a public water and sewer system, yes.
Okay, then one more final request for you. Next time, can
Yes.
we bring maps to put up on the screen too, just so
Sure.
people?
Sure.
Because
I
we're
will.
the only ones seeing this, and I feel
Yeah.
kind of guilty.
So
Okay.
where is this in relation to other areas in that southeastern sector of Frederick County that potentially have a significant amount of development that will occur over the next 10, 15, 20 years?
Well, I think on the other maps we'll examine, will show that
Okay,
there's not much development potential in that Green Valley well and
Okay.
septic area.
all right. It looks pretty built out.
Move on, okay. So the next map is the area around the town.
Uh-huh.
The municipal border it matches the red dots. That's the community growth area on the county's plan. So it kind of overlaps in areas, but the town boundary is shown in black, but it generally corresponds with the community growth area. That's the red dots. So, back in 2012, the Zeltman property was given a plan designation of low-density residential. And then the Rigler property, they're just, west of town, is also within the county's identified growth area around your borders. And then south, I think it's the Day properties, are they still the owners there, south of 144, north of 70. That's shown as industrial on our long-range plan, but with agricultural zoning there on the left. And then our identified growth area extends down to the 84 lumber area too, down that far. But as you can see, the Kraft property, the Royston property are not within the county's identified growth area, and I don't think the town has that indicated for growth. Is that correct?
They are within our future annexation area
Okay,
under conservation zoning.
okay.
And I think you know this, but, our concern is, if at all possible, we wanted to see an agricultural buffer.
Mhm,
We wanted to not have to go to the length that Walkersville went to
mhm,
and purchased the land in order to have a buffer.
mhm.
Okay.
So as we've talked about in the past, for the Zeltman property, whenever the county gets to its comprehensive plan update, the map, not the concept plan that we discussed last month, that would be an appropriate time for the town to convey its wishes of what they would like to see the county do for that property on the county's maps. So the other maps show some development proposals that have been submitted. The next map, and I can bring these back next month if we want to show them on the screen, if that would be helpful for
That
the
was-
the
yes.
audience.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
if you
I'll do
just-
that.
There's a whole lot of
Yeah.
red on that.
Yeah.
We'll have,
It's
we'll have.
better to have it on the screen,
'Cause
so,
you-
because it's being by the TV.
But we'll try for extra copies. These things
Yeah.
get really expensive to print out.
I'll do a repeat for next month.
So
For-
stay
to-
tuned, come back
to
next
show.
up.
And we can get those uploaded to our website as well, okay?
Great.
So Tim and I will work on that.
Thank you.
Okay, the next map is the Lake Linganore area.
Wow.
Top one is the zoning, and the bottom one's the comprehensive plan. And those are, I've indicated the areas that have had development plans approved for those areas. The town center, as everyone probably sees, that's under development now, approved for 1,100 units right by the high school. Then north of that along Gas House Pike, and next month when I bring the maps back, I'll have the roads labeled better on here. So that's Gas House Pike, that road up to the north. So you can see Woodridge 5, that has plan approval for 150 single-family lots. And the Hamptons West was just approved for 400 lots. One thing to point out there about Hamptons West, see where the leader is, those little odd-shaped parcels to the left or to the west of that leader line, that's a new elementary school site and a new fire station site. Those lots were just created.
The little green?
No, up in here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right there.
On the corner, okay.
The yellow outline.
Again,
Right, okay.
apologies that it's not on the screen for easy viewing.
So that's a new elementary school and a fire
Station, right.
Wow.
And then, you know, heading kind of south toward the town of Newmarket, there's the large Casey tract and the Blentlinger piece that's on Boyers Mill Road. They just have zoning. As you can see, everything there in red has the PUD zoning. So there's still lots of land in the Lake Linganore community that doesn't have plan approval yet. But they have the zoning for, you know, development in that, the remaining lands you see there in the red.
Is there a time frame on, so these units have been approved in Hampton West and Woodbridge
Right.
5. Is there a time frame on when they're gonna be started, constructed, finished? I know-
Well, that's a bit hard to answer, but when this property was rezoned in 2013, they entered into the 25-year contract, the DRRA, the Development Rights and Responsibilities Agreement. So everything's locked in place for 25 years from the year 2013. So it's kind of hard to say when they'll move ahead because they have some flexibility in terms of their timing
Got it.
of development.
Okay.
And I think that decision's been through court a couple of times, and it's finally,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it has for the Blentlinger piece. But then another point about the Woodridge 5 and the Hamptons West, they just have, you know, subdivision plan approval. The Woodridge 5 has platted maybe 20 lots, have recorded 20 lots. So the rest of that is just, you know, subdivision plan approval. No formal lots have been created or recorded.
Got it.
And that's gas house pipe?
Yeah, that's up top, yes.
Wow.
Mhm. That'll be better labeled next month.
That's
Where
fun.
is West Winds?
It's in the far corner here.
Okay.
That's a developed area around the golf course, so those are all existing platted lots, built out. It's here.
Okay.
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 So you can see, you know, all the lots that exist in Lake Linganore, most of those are built out, but you can see the lot lines there in yellow. So if there are no questions there, I'll turn to the next page. The Monrovia area,
Tim, but
yes.
just a quick question. We asked you, it's been 12, 18 months or more ago, if you could invite Frederick County Transportation Planner to come visit us. And basically, what he told us was that development out in the county, I mean, there's no responsibility once that development is approved in terms of the impact on the highway and road infrastructure. There may be mitigation, you know, close by with regard, you know, to water or, you know, in and out of it and schools and so forth. But there's no responsibility for how much incremental impact that development is going to dump onto the streets and roads that existing growing commuter populations are using.
Well, that's primarily Interstate 70. Like for the Linganore community, they did the traffic study that was approved as part of the rezoning and the DRA. They looked at the you know, surrounding intersections, and there are a lot of escrow accounts that the developer has to pay into when certain triggers and milestones are achieved. Like, you know, a certain number of lots, they'll have to pay into funds to upgrade intersections or install traffic lights at different intersections. So the whole area, I mean, Lake Linganore is huge, but intersections and road segments were examined in this whole area. And they, you know, to mitigate the additional traffic from the development that will be coming. Like there's lots of escrow accounts, for example, the 75 interchange to Interstate 70. There's a lot of improvements there that are tied to Lake Linganore and Casey and Blentlinger. So it is looked at, but maybe not as comprehensively or large as, you know, some of the commission has expressed over the years.
Is there an opportunity to either, you know, reach out to State Highway Administration or some appropriate source to give their projections on how the amount of considered additional development over the next 10, 15, 20 years, what that's going to do for commute times and commuter volume?
Well, they were certainly involved with because there's a lot of state roads here, you know, Interstate 75, I mean, Route 75 is the main one. They were certainly involved with the traffic studies and the scoping and the needed improvements from the development. What might be helpful, sir, is to bring the LOU, or the letter of understanding for this development, and the DRA, and that spells out all the road improvements and intersection enhancements that will have to be done for Lake Linganore. Just to give you some idea and scope of, what was examined and the impacts this development will be causing to the roads, and then the mitigations that are going to be, that are required.
Well, I'm getting at something that's more comprehensive in bottom line. The town of Mt.Airy paid out of its own pocket for a corridor study of 27, so we could understand, given different development scenarios, what that impact might be for us. Is there going to be an equivalent effort on the part of Frederick County to understand and share with the public what the impact of your development's gonna cause?
There was a group that did a different kind of look at the impact. So there has been kind of an informal look at the impacts of this large development area on some of the roads, even, downstream from here. So some of that has been done. It hasn't really been an official county study in terms of what we're normally used to having for development approvals. I can get a copy of that for you that was done.
That's okay.
Was any of that
Answers now.
detailed
Yeah, I
in
know.
that livable
Yeah.
Frederick
Yeah.
plan that we talked about last month?
I'm sorry?
Is any of that detailed in that livable Frederick
No.
plan that we talked about last month?
No, it's not.
No.
So I have a question that's related to this. Is what Bill is trying to get from you, is that more come from the state as opposed to the county? Like whether or not what you're doing is going to impact 70, do you have any control over that? Or
No,
or
yeah,
does the state law say anything about I-70?
It
the
doesn't.
highways.
It doesn't in terms of the county's development approvals and the county's development regulations. It doesn't.
So it's like that seems
In
to
other
be.
words,
Right.
they don't care. They're gonna do whatever.
So the state,
Right.
yeah.
But just like
I
when
mean-
we talk about developing in Mount Airy, we're not talking about the impact it has on 70. We're worried about the 27 corridor, but we're not gonna
More
pay
so.
for a 70 corridor. And I think the same for this development, they're worried about
They're
the
looking at
75,
75,
75
not
and the interchange.
I-70.
But
Right.
they're not looking at
So-
70 any more
Doesn't
than
seem to be.
any other development going down, up and down 70. I have the same concerns as
Oh,
a
right,
driver on
right. It's
70,
just
trust
too-
me. but
right.
Yeah.
I guess a bit more detail to put in perspective would be helpful to
Yeah.
understand, where the impact is going to be, primarily situated, and if it's a public concern or not, or a planning concern, for adjacent municipalities.
So maybe we should be
Seem to
talking to
be.
the state,
State Highway
Yeah.
Administration.
Right.
state highway
Right,
administration.
because the county
and
hasn't
state
done it.
planners
Right.
Yeah.
about that,
Okay.
since,
Right.
it's regional.
You have a sense if we could reach out to them?
Okay, there's one more map, just the Monrovia area. The Lansdale subdivision, that's the name, they have approval. As you can see, they've platted many lots there. They have approval for 1,100 residential units. And then the Monrovia Town Center, that's gotten a lot of coverage over the years, that's still in litigation. So I don't have much more on that. But I will look at the, some of those larger corridor studies that kind of informally looked at the impacts on some of the other state roads, farther away from the development centers.
I think that might be interesting to see, because if without expanding development, it becomes a point source where the traffic really needs to stay on 70 to get to anything. But as you spread out and diffuse the area, it could actually benefit. It doesn't all have to be bad. It can actually diffuse the traffic off of 70. And just because you develop, it doesn't mean that more people are heading in the same direction. I mean, it can fan out better.
Yeah, like.
So you'd have to analyze it. What's that?
Not on some of those roads.
Well, if you look at 70 though, if you're expanding where there isn't development, then you could come off of 70 quicker, right?
Maybe.
Before, instead of riding it.
Maybe.
Maybe, I don't know, possibly.
I mean, the traffic studies look at, the trip origin and destination, that's all part of the
Right.
traffic study mix.
I mean, you could think if Mount Airy got bigger, 27 coming into Mount Airy would be more diffuse, right? Because it would, you wouldn't just drive in and then go out. You would cut off of 27 faster.
Depends on the road.
Assume-
Yeah, it
Right.
depends. Depends on
It
where you are.
depends. Well, I'm saying you have to
Depends
study.
on the
You have to
development.
look to see. If you have a more diffuse target, it could spread out the traffic.
If the planning commission would like to see, you know, other things on the map or additional information, since I'll be coming back next month to show the maps on the screen, you know, we can easily make any edits or revisions to these that you'd like.
Thanks, Sam, I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
This is awesome, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, this
Okay.
is
Thank you.
awesome, and you see the train coming toward you.
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
coming. It's kind of like a tsunami.
Mhm.
Okay.
And Mike, you had something you wanted to add or ask? Just come up and,
I think something that's sort of unique with Mount Airy is that we paid for that traffic study.
Right.
Most places don't. And I think we did that for two reasons. Number one, to find out what is happening in our town and plan accordingly, but also to get up on the list at state highways so they didn't have to do the engineering and stuff like that. So I don't think that happens on a typical case on towns our size. Maybe the county has more influence on state highway than we do, but for our purposes, that corridor study, I think, just advanced us maybe on their list.
thank you. Yeah, it was money well spent. Very valuable, also very scary. Okay, so next on our list, we have, and thank you, Tim, for coming, really appreciate. We have site plan, subdivision, sign permit, reviews, sign presentations. It's 1311 and 1401 South Main Street. Heather, want to go for it?
I slacked on my job, so I'm trying to.
No, you didn't. You're just you're finding it, so don't worry. Deep breath.
Hold on, I'm trying to get to the, oh my heavens, there we go. Have to speed up the transition of these slides, there we go. Okay, so you have before you, this evening, a request for a variation of off-street parking standards and also a request for approval of an amended site plan reflecting the revised parking plan, which will result from the requested parking variations, if so approved. And this is pursuant to 1311 South Main Street, 1401 South Main Street, and 1 East Ridgeville Boulevard. And we commonly refer to those as the Main Street, Ileano Plaza, Mount Airy Inn, and Bank of America, just for generalities. And I'm not reading the staff report word for word, so.
That's
fine.
fine.
We-
We
we
can
I'm just
read.
doing
Don't need
some
No.
talking points.
Go for it.
The site plan amendment and parking variations will afford relief to the parking requirements specific to 1311 South Main Street and also to 1401 South Main Street and 1 East Ridgeville Boulevard due to the shared parking agreement between all three of those sites. The shared parking calculation was applied and approved under site plan file number T08002S. A total number of 293 parking spaces were required at that time to serve all three sites. And the applicant has provided a breakdown of the specific requirements in their request for variation. So that is included in their narrative for reference. It's important to note that the sites have been operating in compliance with the parking plan and parking agreement per the approved site plan, as well as the subsequent amendments that followed. There have been some various iterations of that site. We got a Dunkin' Donuts drive-through, and there were some boundary line adjustments. So they've remained compliant all throughout the process. In fact, there was actually a surplus, we discovered, of 3 parking spaces based on the as-built condition of the site. So they are actually 3 up. A recent discovery regarding the encroachment of 5 parking spaces along the eastern property boundary has posed some concerns that the parking areas may no longer comply with the approved site development plan. This has presented a challenge in allowing the potential sale of the property to move forward. And if you look at your site plan, the 5 spaces in question are up at the very top, and they're sort of that block with hatch marks. So those are the 5 spaces in question. A physical count of the parking spaces provided on each of the 3 sites was conducted in order to confirm the existing parking inventory. A total of 291 parking spaces currently exist. It is important to note that this count excludes the 5 spaces subject to the encroachment, but does appropriately include the stacked parking spaces of the drive-through lanes for both the donut shop and the bank. And they were as allowed with the amendments to the original site plan. The applicant is not able to mitigate the potential loss of the 5 parking spaces, as the built condition of the site does not lend itself to the installation of 2 additional parking spaces to address the shortfall. A physical assessment of the site was conducted, and there's really no way to eke out 2 more spaces. The applicant submits that there is more than ample parking for the current tenant mix ratio as the commercial center operates today, and respectfully requests the following variations. A reduction in the parking requirement as approved under the 2008 site plan from a total of 293 spaces to that of 291 parking spaces. And a reduction in the overall parking requirement for 1311 South Main Street, specifically from 224 spaces to 222 spaces. Now, just to note that the request for variation only totals 2 parking spaces. The request for the variations as stated will ensure that all 3 sites, both like individually and with the shared parking agreement, will be in compliance with the parking requirements. So that's it. I just wanted to clarify that we're still only looking at parking space variation of 2 spaces. Town Code Section 9849 provides the authority to the Planning Commission to vary the regulations if unusual hardships may result from strict compliance with said regulations. Staff does find that this is a unique situation and concurs with the applicant's assessment that the existing parking conditions provide more than ample parking for the existing commercial center and the mix of uses as they exist today. Therefore, staff makes the following recommendations. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission grant a variation of the off-street parking standards set forth in Town Code Section 112-7, reducing the total number of combined parking spaces for 1311 South Main Street, 1401 South Main Street, and 1 East Ridgeville Boulevard from 293 to 291. Staff recommends the Planning Commission grant a variation of the off-street parking standards set forth in Town Code Section 112-7, reducing the number of required parking spaces for 1311 South Main Street from 224 to 222. And staff lastly recommends the approval of the amended site plan reflecting the revised parking tabulations and the 5 spaces no longer considered as part of the parking plan as originally approved under T08002S. That concludes the staff report, and representatives from the applicant and other interested parties are here to answer any questions that the staff report may not have covered.
Would you like to add anything, sirs? And if you do, just give your name.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Stephen Goldberg. I represent BIA LLC, and with me is Brian Wagner from CLSI, the engineer retained by BIA LLC. I would be regurgitating much of what Ms. Smith has already
Okay, you don't have to do that then.
presented to the Commission, but not nearly as artfully as Ms. Smith has. I don't have anything to add, but we're happy to answer any questions that the Commission may have.
Okay, anyone have any questions?
Just a quick one, the shared parking agreement, does that get transferred with the sale of the property?
The 2008 site plan contemplated a shared parking agreement. For unknown reasons, that shared parking agreement was never memorialized. The parties are in the process of negotiating a written shared parking agreement among the owners of the 3 tracks, and that shared parking agreement will convey with the properties.
Good question.
I don't have a question about this per se. I do have a comment that's outside. When there's an issue with the drive-through at the Dunkin' Donuts, a severe issue, and I don't know how you're going to address it. When people come in the back, from the backside, from Bank of America, and they stop instead of,
Yeah.
there needs to be
Strict
a,
traffic.
like at, excuse me, a McDonald's or something, where you have a designated drive-through parking lane so that they come off of Main Street and not Ridgeville Boulevard, because you wind up having people merging from two sides, and there is no room for anyone to go back and forth in that area, and I think that's not a good thing. So there needs to be a designated lane that they have to come in and go around to come into the drive-through. It's very precarious at times.
And staff can certainly work. I think signage and perhaps, some,
Yeah, just
some-
draw on the asphalt drive-through parking lane, or, just,
we can work with the potential owners or the existing owners.
but I haven't had it, I
yes.
didn't know who to go to, so you're here tonight, so I decided I'm gonna say it tonight, because it's,
Thanks, 'cause I've never gone through there.
yeah, it's not,
And it can happen early in the mornings, at the point where you can't get around.
that's what I
A
mean.
few cars park in the spaces to the right there, and there's a,
Yeah.
It's when more than X number of people are coming through to get their coffee.
Right, and there's delivery trucks that need to go back and forth in there, because that's when the
Right.
restaurant has their major time for delivery is in the morning, and you can't get through there.
Well, the proposed purchaser of this particular property, the Dunkin' Donuts property, is actually the operator of the Dunkin' Donuts. We'll certainly pass that on to him, and we'll work with Ms. Smith in the
Okay.
town to make sure there's proper signage and designated lanes and.
Heather, my question, there is not, so we're looking at parking for all three buildings as one thing. If there is not a shared parking agreement, where does the parking shortage fall by individual properties then?
It
So-
would fall on the Main Street Ileano Plaza.
On the
Right.
plaza, and they're
So
willing
they're
to,
back there.
so in reality, we're granting that variance for that particular,
Right,
of those two units falling there. I mean, those two parking
Mhm.
spaces.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because the other two sites have actually excess parking
So
than
they're
they're
helping
required.
complement
Mhm.
Ileano's.
Well, that's good.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
And they
if
were-
something didn't go through with that parking agreement, in reality, we're only short two, well, actually, Ileano's would be short quite a few if there's not a shared parking agreement.
I believe that the impact would be more than two, yes.
But that they're all working together is hopeful.
Right, right.
So then the question is whether this should be based on contingent upon the agreement going through.
Sure, you could put conditioned upon,
Yeah, I mean, I
or,
just feel like it's a different,
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, it's a
it's
good
two
question.
different
Yeah, it's
stories,
two-
yeah.
conditioned upon the
Shared agreement.
parking.
Shared
The-
agreement.
the
Right.
shared
Because if
parking
it's shared
agreement.
agreement, they're short two,
Right.
fine. If it's not, doesn't go through, then they're short, you said.
Well, actually, this property's fine, Ileano's would be the one that would be short. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, that's what I mean.
sale, if it helps at all, the sale's gonna be contingent on all that too. The parking agreement.
Okay, well, that's good.
Good.
So
Well,
we'll all,
Oh,
Well,
okay.
good.
we'll all be contingent
Good.
upon everything.
Oh, okay, so there really is nothing that we need to add then if the sale's already contingent on that?
Well, you
Yeah.
know, it doesn't hurt to, I mean, I think we're all under the understanding that the shared parking agreement must be reached and memorialized in order for this amendment to even be plausible, so.
Okay.
And are all three buildings being sold?
1401 and 1311 is being sold. One East Ridgeville Boulevard will not be sold.
Right.
That's the
right,
bank.
right,
The bank.
right,
That's the
right.
bank.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Anyone want to make a motion on that one?
I will.
Go for it, Bob.
Okay, I will make a motion that the planning commission grant a variation of the off-street parking standards set forth in Town Code 112-7, reducing the total number of combined parking spaces for 1311 South Main Street, 1401 South Main Street, and 1 East Ridgeville Boulevard from 293 spaces to 291 spaces. And grant a variation of the off-street parking standards set forth in Town Code 112-7, reducing the number of required spaces for 1311 South Main from 224 to 222, and, it's like a whereas, Tom. Staff recommend approval of the amended site plan reflecting revised parking tabulations and 5 parking spaces no longer considered as part of the parking plan as originally approved under T08002-S. And this would all be contingent upon an MOU, or however we're gonna call it, but an agreement that,
Shared parking.
Shared parking
a
agreement.
shared parking agreement that conveys with the sale of the property.
I second it.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your explaining this to us. Okay, great.
Yep.
As usual, Heather, again, thank you for all the work you put into it.
Really,
As usual.
really
She hits
smoothly
it out of the
done.
park.
Yeah,
So we
that's,
want to,
that's very
acknowledge you,
obvious.
Heather, for doing that and working with them.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so next on new business, the 2018 water allocation cycle, division of available capacity held, staff recommendation,
Mm.
Barney. Wow, Barney. Hey, there's Barney. Says no action to be taken other than on recommendation other than setting a public hearing for March.
Right. There was just a couple changes to what was there last time. We had looked at, we have some new industrial lots that have come out on Twin Arch Road that we wanted to make sure we had some water for. I think we had 0 in the category previously.
So are you looking at page 2, Barney?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking at page 2.
Okay.
No,
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm looking at page 3, actually. I'm
Oh.
sorry.
Oh, okay, I see.
At least talking about page 3.
Got
So we had 0 in industrial, and we wanted to make sure we put some water there.
3's what you're proposing, and then set one in from the back is the 2016, what we had before.
Yes, correct. Correct.
You
But
look at the
basically,
comparison.
we moved, we already accounted for the 3 residential properties that we had talked about, which was Brittany Manor, Wildwood Park 7, and Sterling Glen, the 2 lots in Sterling Glen.
Mhm.
And so those are already covered, and we had some additional, I think it was around 4,000, that we moved into the industrial category. And the other category that we've been using is the redevelopment and revitalization. We had a few projects that took some water out of that, so we put some extra in that as well, so. Those were really the only changes that we had made, but overall, we're recommending continuing with what we had started 2 years ago. We had 81,000. We've used a number, a good number of that, and then, so now we're down to, I think it was 52,000
453.
roughly.
Barney, one of the questions I had, stepping back from this, I mean, this is essentially a 2-year allocation.
Correct.
Okay. In terms of your awareness of the pace of development of approved projects, stuff that's already in the pipeline, and then others that even haven't come to us as yet, okay? We're talking about potential demand there.
Right.
The other unknown is a Harrison LaShire or, other test wells or something else that ultimately could be part of identifying potential additional capacity. Any comment on the timing of, usage, extra usage within that time frame that might challenge that 50-some-odd thousand?
We certainly, as far as extra wells, we certainly wouldn't have those Harrison LaShire wells
Right.
within this 2-year category. I mean,
Right.
even if we got approved, we'd have to develop them and
Right.
get them moving. So I'm not sure about excess capacity so much. With there could be other projects that come in that, I don't, again, 2 years is not a long time when you're talking about developing a property. We've identified on page 2 the developments that we see coming in as potential, things
Right.
that have come to us before. You know, if there's something else that jumps in, you know, we still have 2 years to either accommodate in 2 years, or, you know, we have a one-time change that we could always pull from a category if we had to. Again, you know, most developments take more than a year to get ready, so, you know, I don't see anything else hitting us
Yeah.
other than like redevelopment, revitalization. That's why we wanted to put a little extra in there, because you can have somebody just wants to grow and they just need a little extra
Just a little
allocation.
bit.
So those are usually a couple hundred here, a couple hundred there.
And so roughly, right at, what is it, 3/4 of this, 76% is designated for our priority areas, which is downtown zone with the extension of Center Street.
Right.
So,
Yep.
so that's appropriate in terms of what we hope to do moving forward with downtown master plan, and some of that may come to fruition within the 2-year timeframe. Okay. I mean, the rationale seems to make sense.
Any other questions for Barney? Thank you, Barney.
The planning
Sure.
commission won't be taking any action on this evening, other than setting a public hearing for these recommendations in March. Typically, since we already begin at 7, we typically just hold the public hearings at 7, and then at the conclusion of the public hearing, we go into the regular business
Okay.
meeting. So if that's okay, that's how I'll schedule it.
Mm-hmm.
And these recommendations will be posted on our website, and public notice will be put in the newspaper advising of the public hearing.
Okay,
Okay?
that makes sense, we'll all be here,
Okay.
right? We already had the date set anyway. Okay, next we have the Harrison LaShare property update. Barney?
Okay. Give me 1 second.
Okay. We're just so happy to see you.
Here we go. All right, so, just as an update, Hydroterra was doing our well testing over at the Harrison Lazier properties. These are 4 wells that already exist there. And one we had tested about 10 years ago. We retested that for 30 days. Our requirement's only to test it for 3 days total, but we want to make sure that there's not a big cavity there that we're just drawing from, and we want to get past that point where it starts to recharge itself. And so we want to know what, at the end of that period, you know, how much water we have. And so we tested it for what we were looking for, and what we and the IDA was looking for, and everything seemed to come out fine. It still needs to be sent to MDE, so reports being generated, but we had tested one well for 200 gallons a minute. Lost my place here. While that was testing, about halfway through the test, they started testing the other 3 wells. And while that one's going on, they're you know, drawing more from that same aquifer. And one of them they tested at 100 gallons a minute, another one at 200 gallons a minute, and the third one at 75 gallons a minute. So when you had 200 gallons a minute coming from one and 200 gallons a minute coming from the other, I mean, that's a pretty significant amount of water they draw from there. So it was pretty successful. You know, they have to analyze that data with how long it takes for all that water to come back after you shut everything off, and then write a report and send it to MD and then do their analysis. But all in all, it sounded pretty positive as far as good production wells.
Is there sufficient recharge area within that property?
Yeah, yes.
You wouldn't
again,
have to have additional recharge area?
in the state now, the state looks at a certain limit as far as how far from that well that they have to monitor. So they were actually monitoring some wells on Jack's Court and Butler Road, and all those seem to stay consistent, so we didn't draw down their wells, so that was positive also.
Do
So-
you know where we are with IDA on anything beyond, I mean, water's the first step, so now it looks like water's great.
Right.
Yeah, and, so after that is the next step annexation into the
Yeah, that was my-
town?
So,
Or-
so we're gonna submit this to MDE,
Okay.
but they won't actually be able to give us an appropriation until we actually own the property.
Okay.
And that won't happen as far as what I've seen on the agreement so far, until, that annexation does occur, so. Unless something changes, if they gave us the water rights, that could be another option where they still own the
So
property.
you're
but
saying
gives water rights.
MDE can't even tell you what
Well,
they
I think they
find?
can tell us, they can give us a response,
Okay.
but they won't be able
They
to
won't
give us
put
a
it in writing.
formal appropriation until that time.
Okay. Bob, is it appropriate to ask, is there any movement on the discussion with IDA?
I've actually,
Negotiation.
the town councilmen are meeting with IDA and being a part of this process on a rotating basis. For about a year, 2 councilmen will go to the meetings and everything. Now, I haven't been probably in 6 months. It's a snail's pace right now. I think everybody's wanting to make sure that, this is a good deal for Mt.Airy before we sign on to this. So, that's what they're looking at. I think we were talking about a water test 2 years ago, and it's finally happening, so. And, like Barney says, we know what we're drawing water-wise, or what'll flow water-wise, but we don't know what the state's gonna allow, or what the county wants out of all that. So, all those things have to be discussed and talked about, and
And-
they take a long time.
And do
Has
the
taken a long
rotating
time.
council people report back to council? And
If there's
since
something to
I've
report.
missed meetings occasionally.
It's a lot of the meetings, there'll be nothing to report.
And in terms of what leverage the town has, if any, because there's been a lot of changes over the years about how much we are getting for recreational space and,
I don't think there's a whole lot of change at the table. I think, it's pretty much the same as we went into 4 or 5 years ago.
in fact, didn't we pass that ordinance already? So it's really got to comply
so we-
with our ordinance unless we change our
We
ordinance.
passed that as part of
Right.
employment, yes.
Well, the nice thing in looking at that ordinance again and attending the Carroll County Planning Commission hosted session
Right.
the other evening.
I was there too.
Exactly, there were 3 of us
And
that were
Roxanne
able
was
to
there.
make it. But the good thing about that, number one, I mean, there's part of me that, is disappointed that we're not going forward with an OPE down in that sector. But then that was the will and the preference of the property owners, of course. Carroll County has gone forward with their zoning direction for that kind of district elsewhere. But the other, I think, encouraging thing is really our specification for our OPE is actually more stringent than
Yes.
the county's.
It is.
And that's a good thing, I think, in terms
They
of
have-
height.
Height. 4 stories, they'll go up to 4 stories, where we're only willing to go to 3.
And maybe even, some density. I mean, ours is actually better.
So
It's less impactful.
are they dragging their feet because, theirs is less stringent than ours?
Bob has a,
I
Are they
think
dragging their feet?
Um,
Do you think?
One thing that I can probably say without any doubt at all, something is going to happen on that Harrison Lashir property.
Right.
Okay? We can either.
Whether we annex it or not.
Right, exactly.
Somebody's
we know
going to
that.
put in that campus.
Right.
Okay, and we can either be involved in that or not.
Right.
We will have the most impact on 27, of anybody. Carroll County's not gonna have a severe impact like we're gonna have. This is going to affect our lives.
Mhm.
So, I just wanna make sure we go into this basically owning the property so that we can collect the property taxes and do something.
Would it be fair to say we might have more ability to manage or have some control, some influence influence on the potential impact as a result of annexing it and it being inside our town boundary as opposed to not, and it remains in
Absolutely
town?
not. If it's not
Right.
inside the town boundary, we gain nothing from it.
We have nothing
And Carroll
at
County
all
gets it all.
if
But
we don't
have no
annex it.
leverage either.
That's what I'm saying. If we don't annex, we have no leverage.
Yeah, but they have no they have no access to sewer and water though either.
Yeah.
We will feel the entire impact.
Well, that's
It's
true.
sewer.
I think that's
We
been,
have the water.
yeah,
you know.
I think that's been the ongoing tension is we don't really want it, but
We're
if
stuck.
if we don't annex it, then we don't
Well, it's-
know
it's-
what they might do.
It's not really come to the point where we've gotten down to the nitty gritty of do we want it or not,
I mean, some people don't want it,
Yeah.
yeah.
The process has been very slow.
Right.
And, it's just, that's what happens with these types of things, but something's gonna happen.
And when do you forecast something's gonna happen? Like another year, another
I
5
think
years?
I'm wondering if I'll be around to see it, the process is moving so slow and, I'm getting older every day, unlike you guys.
And that's okay if nothing happens right now. I'm fine if it takes forever.
Roxanne, you wanna say something?
I don't,
Well, and not only that, this employment or this type of an office complex, if you're traveling around and you notice, there's a lot of them that are empty. They have overbuilt in this area, a lot, in a lot of areas. So,
What's a new job model?
well, I know, right.
I mean, working from home and younger millennials
Exactly.
and
So,
people are not
we've
going to
changed
work
a
at the
lot
office
in the
part.
3 years that this came
Yeah,
up.
this has been planned.
And I
yeah.
think if you remember, even John Eisen said, when he was talking specifically about One Loudon, he said, that'll never be built out commercially because it's just not that style, the way, that philosophy
Yeah,
is
embracing
starting to,
that.
And that was
Turn.
one of the rationales for the fiber backbone.
yep.
And we are unique in all of the state in that regard. No one has that capability. But what are you gonna use that for? Well, if you're talking about high-tech employment campuses, it's a fit. It's a different kind of highway. It's an information superhighway.
We have,
Can't get that at my house. I'm on Main Street.
I hear you.
I hear you too. Larry?
I just wanted to clarify on currently there's 2 councilmen that have been going to the meetings. There hasn't been a rotation of
Oh,
councilmen.
okay, I was wondering about that.
It's just
The
2
same two.
councilmen that were, that took an interest in it and we're heading to it. I think Bob, you're one, and
Yeah, I was
Jason.
one. I
Yeah.
think Jason is now, and Peter stays pretty constant.
Yeah.
Because he's, the council chair, and he is also an attorney. And
Yeah.
so, Peter stays as constant in the mix. The rest of us fill in as needed, or, if Jason wasn't gonna go, he'd call one of us to go.
Yeah, so pretty, I've expressed some interest in it, but I'm waiting on someone to get tired. And as soon as they're tired, then I can jump in. So that was one thing, but I'm also sensing the urgency or the concern of the planning commission that this move forward and come online, so.
Oh, I don't know if there's,
We're
I
not,
can say
yeah,
for
no.
myself, I don't think there's an urgency for
No.
anything to
Okay.
happen.
Just wanna know.
Okay,
Just
We-
information, I just don't want it to be all of a sudden
More
sprung
communication.
upon us
Right.
Yes.
that
So
something's
we can
happening.
prepare and we can.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Or we ask our citizens to vote on it. I mean,
Right.
Yeah,
So
okay.
keep
Well,
it
I mean,
flowing
it
by.
started in 2010, so,
Yeah.
within 7, 8 years, you
Exactly.
should have
no,
something.
only 8 years, wow. Well, hey, listen, it took us that long to get a master plan, so. Mike?
2010.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The water test is something that was gonna happen in 2010, and so, here we are.
Here we are.
8 years later.
8 years later, and we
Finally
now
got the
have the
results of
beginnings
that.
of a water test. So it's just crisply moving right along.
So Barney, what happens with this water? MDE approves so much, is it depending on what we want to put in there? Or is it based on just the property? How do they approve how much water can be taken from these wells?
So basically, 2 things, that you need to have the pumping capability that can sustain, a certain amount. So as long as you can keep pumping it, that's why we wanted to do it for 30 days, just to make sure it will sustain itself. The other thing is you need a certain amount of acreage. So based on your acreage, they'll give you so many gallons per
Re-
day, per
recharge.
acre. And that's what we would be getting as part of this agreement, is the water rights to all the Harrison Ligier property plus some in the Gillis Falls property, Gillis Falls area, to make up for the total acreage for that.
So if we annex this and an office park goes in there, they're gonna take a finite amount of water. What about all the extra capability or approval that we have? Does that go into our reserve or whatever you wanna call it? So in other
What's that? I'm
words,
sorry.
so you were coming close to 400,000 gallon, or 400 gallons a,
Well,
an hour.
we're looking at 200,000 gallons a day total.
Okay,
All right, with 200 gallons a minute, we could achieve that.
right.
But just to show that we can actually pump 400 gallons a minute, even after we've been pumping it for a couple weeks, we can pump 400 gallons a minute and work for 24 hours.
So if the projected development up there requires 50,000 gallons a day, what happens to the other 150,000 that we?
That comes to the town for the town's use.
Okay,
And-
that was
and
the
that's-
question.
The idea was that would help us, we need about
Defray.
250,000 gallons a day
Yes,
to make up for the rest of our infill,
okay.
roughly.
So the next question would be sewer capacity. Where are we at that, where are we at that right now?
We have adequate sewer capacity to support the equivalent of that 200,000 gallons a day.
Anything more than that?
A little bit more than that, yes.
So we're pretty maxed out when we reach our sewer capacity, correct?
We're maxed out at that plant.
Other than building a new plant. Can that plant be
On this side of
upgraded?
the ridge.
There's some question of whether that could be upgraded or not. It's gonna be kinda tough to upgrade. We're surrounded by wetlands and stuff.
Right.
There's not a lot of room there. So, but, all of our water that we draw is both from the Carroll County side and the Frederick County side. They're actually coming from two different sides, one's from
Right.
the Patapsco and one's from the
Monocacy.
Potomac, or Monocacy. And, so it would make sense if we had to build one sometime way in the future, we would build a second one over on the Frederick County side.
So does the current amount of infill that we have, will that satisfy the capacity of the sewer plant?
Yeah.
Will we have enough
roughly
for all the-
speaking, yes. That's with all the assumptions of what we're saying is gonna be built out on those vacant properties. Things could change and somebody could allow us to have 6-story buildings in the future and then we wouldn't. So, but yes,
I have one final comment I would make is that if you don't annex this, then you will have the 4-story buildings and
Right.
their OPE ordinance.
Exactly, yeah, we
Which
know
may
that.
jack their requirements for water
know
and
that.
sewer, traffic, and all that other stuff, forgetting ball fields and all.
Right,
Right.
Right.
I have one more question.
right.
Can't think of what it was.
Good comments, good comments.
Now, I'll come back.
Well, think about it, and Bob, just jump on. Heather, could we also have this as an ongoing item, just in a parking space, so we can keep it like, even if it's not moving, to find out it's not moving?
Sure, and I think that those, like, from a council perspective, that's probably best communicated, because staff is, like, Barney's involved because of the well testing.
But otherwise,
But,
Right.
staff is definitely on the periphery of.
well, then we'll make it, hey, Bob, we'll make it your item.
Please,
You can keep us
take that back
updated.
to the council,
Yep.
that we'd like updates on that.
And so we'll make it your own guide.
I can certainly do that, that's.
Well, it's an item that,
important.
like so much in the planning
It's
of Mount Airy,
huge.
it interrelates.
Right. It's a huge puzzle, and a huge piece that not there or there, it has an impact either way, whichever way it goes.
I remember what I want to ask Barney.
Perfect.
Isn't there a caveat that water that comes out of Harrison Lashir not be used for residential?
There was, and again, those agreements are not finalized, but there was some talk about limiting how much could go to residential. I don't know if we're gonna get rid of those requirements and just let it fall into our requirements, or if we're gonna continue with what we had discussed in the past. I haven't attended any meetings with them for a long time, so I don't know if anything has changed as far as that goes. But there was discussion about them limiting,
Yeah, I
but
remember
not,
something right at the start of this, you know.
but a small amount was allowed, but not a lot.
Okay.
So who was pushing for that restriction on residential growth?
The county.
Yeah, the county was asking for that, yep.
Thank you so much, Barney. Thanks for the update.
Sure.
Appreciate your questions. Okay, next on our agenda, under new business, we have consideration of Planning Commission rules of procedure. Planning Commission Chair and Vice Chair. Leslie, you want to jump in and, well, what we,
There's a context for this.
yes, the context is that other jurisdictions have this. And then this was an example from, I think, Middletown.
Yeah.
And thought it would be useful for us to have, but I also wanted you guys to first look at it, and, you know, we'll look at it and then we'll discuss it later, but at least for you to.
Well, I was just going to say, probably similar to what Bill was going to say, we're sort of starting to get a little more formal and organized, and, you know, getting involved with or connected with the Maryland Planning, not Planning Department, but Maryland PCA, yes, and then Roxanne and Bill are actually on their whatever they're on now, their board. So we figure we might as well be actually implementing some procedure.
Right, and
then we had that Jay Gullum, you know, that Pat set up for town
Jay
staff and
So
commissions to.
what I would like is to everyone take a look at
trained.
this and, you know, absorb it a little bit, and we can discuss it next time, but we thought that this was a missing.
Yeah. I have one comment already.
Oh, sure.
Which is that I would like gender neutral language.
Okay.
Everything refers to the chairman,
Okay.
Yeah.
the chairman and the vice chairman.
There's, let me make a contextual comment here. I wanted to bring along the material that MPCA and Maryland Department of Planning utilized to put together the training and certification material for new Planning Commission members and Board of Appeal members. I wanted to bring that along because in the 7 or 8 pages that I distributed to each of you, okay, it very concisely summarizes, okay, the role, the responsibilities, and, you know, the major goals and priorities 1, 2, 3, 4 of a planning commission. It is a wonderful context for the kind of goal setting we're thinking about. It just fits hand in glove, and it revolves around the town master plan and the accomplishment of that plan.
Okay.
So I would say, as you're looking at maybe this Middletown example, you know, also look very carefully, and I really think this is so valuable, we almost should, you know, charge ourselves with reviewing it at the beginning of every single new year, because it just spells it out so clearly.
Is it updated every year, but Bill?
No, it's been updated.
It's been
since.
updated, because when I took this course, it was nothing like this.
It says in the opening, in fact, it's a letter from Wendy Peters, right? About two pages in, that I guess it goes back to 2009, 2010. The course was developed originally with input from the 2007 Task Force on Growth and Development, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I think it's been tweaked since then.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a lot different than when I
Right, 'cause
took
I think I
it.
took it in 2006, whenever it
Yeah,
came
it's
out.
different.
Okay, well, great, thank you. Thank
Maybe we should all take it again.
I have one question, and I'm wondering, does the planning commission actually have the authority to do something like this? In my estimation, the planning commission was created by the town and the town council and the mayor, and that's what our 25, chapter 25 is on the planning commission. And,
Well, I think we're also creatures of the state and the land use,
Right.
you know, article.
66B.
Yeah, originally Article
66B.
66, but now the land use article, so.
if we're going to discuss this, I will, before we put in time and energy see some information that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I will take a look at that, but if there's nothing in it that says we can't do it, then you are responsible for finding that if you would like to oppose it.
There's,
Oh,
there's,
Larry, that's a thing you do,
Yeah.
right? It's either in there, it's not in there.
That's
With something else.
Leslie, there's a possible alternative as well. There are several of us, I suspect, that sit at this table, that because of our profession, there's annual ongoing certification requirements and continuing ed requirements and so forth. And so, in order to be in that profession, you say, okay, I'll be accountable and responsible for doing those things, because that keeps me, you know, up to speed and current and so forth and so on. One approach we could take, since we're gonna get more goal oriented, and we're gonna, you know, measure progress and,
Right.
and probably, practically, work more closely with other commissions, because they have the depth and the focus on the areas within the master plan.
Right.
Okay, that will allow us to accomplish and move forward. We simply say, let's have, instead of what sort of comes across as an Old Testament document, instead, let's have something like a planning commission pact or agreement among all the members that says, what we sign up for is the role, the responsibilities, the priorities, okay, and making sure that as a combined commission, we're all contributing to.
Yeah, I think
the accomplishment.
Bob was more objecting to the rules of procedure, not the
Well,
rules and
that's-
responsibilities of the.
What I'm saying is you take that a different way.
I,
I'm actually not disagreeing with Bill. We
It's just
also
more
have a
proactive.
requirement in the state of Maryland that at every meeting now, at every meeting of every commission, or somebody must be Opens Meeting Act
yes,
certified.
we are aware of that.
We're taking care of it.
Open Meetings Act certified.
So
We
what
got
we're
two right
talking
here.
about- So we're talking about doing on the council, is all the town councilmen become Open Meetings Act certified, and therefore just about every meeting will have a certified representative there and do it on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
Well,
Does that have anything to do with
That
you
doesn't have
opposing
anything to
our
do with
rules of
this.
procedure?
No, that has nothing
Okay.
to do with that,
I didn't think so.
Other than I'm,
It's actually in our proposed rules of procedure that
Yeah, it
we
is.
have to have a certified
Mhm.
Open Meetings Act person. Yeah, did you read it?
yeah, I
Did you read it?
As a matter of fact, I did.
What,
Good.
what,
I
what,
even got my highlighter
Ah.
out and highlighted.
Excellent,
Okay.
excellent.
what I was suggesting, instead of rules and procedure, which is somewhat top-down and vertical, instead you have a horizontal structure which says, as professionals and volunteers willing to be on this commission, which has certain rules and responsibilities, we individually and collectively agree that here's what we're gonna work together to accomplish.
And
know,
if you
all this
actually look at this, it's really very basic, and it's just like a smart way to run a meeting, and to actually know this is how we're gonna run a meeting. And most of it we already do anyway. It's just kind of being a little more clarity. So I think people should just read it. We can actually
come back and
discuss
we'll
it next time,
discuss
and
it
I'll
next
and
time.
I'll check the code to make sure that we're not violating the code in any way by having procedures for our meetings.
Thank you, Leslie.
I read this, and there's not, I don't think there's anything in here significantly different than what we do.
No, no.
It's just the fact that it's officially written down. I understand that.
And it's interesting because Bill, like the whole Jay Golem thing, who is the lawyer who for the
Mhm.
MML who gave us a little training a few months ago. Actually, to me that was very top down. In fact, I mean, some of it was good, and some of
It was
some of
somewhat controlling.
well, some of it was really discounted residents' participation, and it was rather cynical.
Restricted here and
Yeah,
out there.
but we were having like the mayor and council suggest that we follow some of that. Now, to me, that's too top down, but you want us to be a little more formal and organized. Well, maybe we can do something. That's kind of the other thing that this came out of.
I don't know that it has to be that way. I like the idea of professionals saying, hold myself accountable because I'm a member of this group, you know, and we're accountability partners. That's what it is.
Well,
But I think we already do that, don't we?
Mhm.
I mean, when you become a member of the commission, you're,
Supposed to, yeah.
you are supposed to be accountable, and if you're not, then,
So I don't know, maybe annually we sign that pledge or whatever, I don't know.
I don't,
But I don't see the need to spell it out, but let's all.
So what part of, because you seem to be really kind of into the Jay Gouldem thing, so what part did you not like that, because before you seemed to be really kind of interested in,
I was
And his-
interested simply because the implications of the Open Meetings Act and the consistency of it,
Oh.
I felt.
I didn't think he talked, did he really talk about that? You were there.
really?
Yeah.
No, he didn't, but what he
Right.
talked about was managing efficiency and effectiveness
Right.
of a meeting.
Right, yeah.
Okay, and that was somewhat controlling
Mm-hmm.
and with the emphasis on management as opposed, you know.
And when have we ever had a problem with our meetings? I mean, and of course,
Well-
it doesn't, of the fact that we have a packed audience too, but.
Yeah. Well, I think it all depends on the topic. I think we,
Well, that's
we
true.
know that there was
We know
a
the fires.
topic
Right,
that
that's true,
there-
if there's
there-
more controversy or
Yeah.
something, then.
And
Yeah.
so he was showing us different, different tools that you can use to make sure that the emotion is taken out
Right.
of the discussions.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you that I felt as though saying that residents wouldn't be able to ask questions of the plan commission or of the town council was a bit stringent. And I don't think that really was a good thing to institute for our
Community.
town,
I
I
don't
think-
think it's.
community.
Yeah, and I,
Because we're a small community, and I think that's one of the,
And we don't have a local newspaper.
well, yeah, we don't have a Gazette anymore.
And that's what concerned me, because, as an elected representative, I talk to people constantly about what's going on in the town, and we talk about what's going on at the planning commission here. And so this piece of paper here is telling me that it's discouraging me from having those conversations with people. And that's really, contrary to what I was hired to do.
you
And
think,
I'm supposed to bring public input into decisions that we make on the council, that's what we're here for. To try to break this down so people can understand it. So, I agree with you there, that's the part that has me the most upset.
Right.
If there's, in two places in here.
Are you talking about
it's
ex parte communications?
Well, yeah, it's ex parte communications, and a little bit before that, about speaking.
under, that's section 5, is that what you're talking about? Conduct of commission members? Not appear to speak for the commission except as authorized? This includes any public or private statement concerning commission affairs?
It sounds like
That's
legal
correct.
CYA.
A member will not appear to speak for the commission except as authorized by the commission. This includes any public or private statement. Yeah,
Right, well, so let's talk about what we think that means. So what do you
What do you think that means?
well, I just spoke a few moments ago on generally how the town council feels on a particular incident, and I don't think I was very far off from that on the Harrison Lashir issue. Not that we've sat down and had those conversations since 2010, because we haven't, but you get a feeling being on the council and talking with guys, how the council is leaning on some issues. Okay, so I'm being discouraged from talking about this with my fellow councilmen, with anybody outside, Bill and I having beer talking about this would be.
No, I think you're totally misinterpreting what this.
Dr. O'Brien and I sitting and
No,
talking
no,
about this.
I mean, you can talk about you just can't present.
As a commission.
This is what the commission
Right.
thinks.
You're saying you
You're
can
saying
always
that
ask my
as
opinion.
individual-
That's what you
Right.
think.
Yeah, even as a member of the
So
commission or as a member of the council.
As Councilman King, I'm sitting back and I'm watching the commission and I'm thinking that they're going this way, they're leaning this way.
You can say, I think they're leaning this way. You just can't say.
They are
You
doing it
can't,
that way.
you can't say, I'm the spokesperson for the commission and this is what they're doing, unless we've already voted. Then you can say, yeah, this is how the commission voted.
We can read this several different ways. I don't like the part, anytime you try to control my speech, okay, and now I'm an elected representative, and there's an ultimate thing that I will face in a year and a half from now, and that's reelection. You don't face that. Not another person at this board faces that. So you're not responsible to the citizens, you are responsible to the mayor and the town council.
We'll
One
be
thing
voting on it
that
next
I
time.
will say
Right.
is that
Oh,
I
yes,
think
we
the
are.
difference is you can speak, and you should, talk to your constituents,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep.
I could not, nor should you ever go and say, on behalf of the planning commission, I am telling you this is how they're going to vote. On behalf of the planning commission, they are totally against it.
Well, I never do that.
He wouldn't
So
do
that's
that.
all
Well,
it's
then-
saying, that's all it's
They're not
saying.
surprised.
I can go and say all over the place, I don't believe this, I think that this is my personal beliefs.
Mhm.
Anytime, it's when you speak on behalf of
Right.
the commission.
Right.
I think
Mhm.
that's all that it's
And
saying.
that's all we're doing.
No, we get down in here, where is it?
Okay, Bob, let's
Ex
look.
parte communication. Members shall refrain from ex parte communications, meaning communication that occurs outside of formal planning commission meeting regarding matters that will likely come before the commission for decision.
Right. If somebody's coming up, if a developer is coming up before this body, then you should not be privately having a conversation
with them.
about you can talk to them about anything else, but you shouldn't be talking to them. If you're going to vote, you shouldn't be talking to them about what they're going to present to the commission, because that would be an ethical issue, yes.
Absolutely, ethical issue.
Doc Bryan's opinion on that.
If he's presenting
If
something
he's
at the
presenting
commission,
it, if he's the person
That's
that's,
not
Ex
something
parte.
regarding matters that will likely come before.
right.
yes, you should not
Right.
speak with
As a
them.
developer, that's one thing.
Right.
As Doc O'Brien, that's.
Well, that-
As a citizen,
That-
it's no problem.
Right. Yeah, it's just like how you organize ahead of time, you can talk to anybody. I mean, people came in here, groups of people come in and they're opposed to something, of course you can do that. You cannot talk, as somebody on this body, you cannot talk ahead of time that someone's gonna have an issue or to bring something before us. You cannot talk to them ahead of time. That's what this is saying. That's why it says ex parte. It's like a legal term, you can't go and call the judge, without the other side present.
Yes.
Right.
You know, you read this in a very different way than I do. I read this as something that's limiting the authority of the town council. We've had this conversation many times before.
I haven't.
I don't understand.
I haven't had it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Roxanne needs to.
Bob, I don't understand how you can say that we're not, that we don't represent, that we're only, I can't even put it in words what I'm saying. Yes, we represent the community and we're looking out for their well-being as well.
I didn't say that you don't represent them. I say you're not responsible to them.
I disagree, I'm sorry.
Actually, I disagree with that too, come to
Yes.
think of it, Roxanne.
I disagree with it.
I disagree with
Whether
that.
you go on this board or not.
That's true, but once we
Oh,
get
but they
on
can-
this
They can
board,
talk to their elected officials about it,
Absolutely.
yes, they can.
and
Yes, they
I, and this
Oh,
is
yeah.
this is not limiting the town council. This is just a document for the planning commission. It's not for the town council. It's just for the planning commission.
And we're out there in the community just as much, again,
Right.
we don't attend all the meetings you are, but we're out there in the community, and that's part of the reason why we have these, is like, what's going on when people ask us, what's the status of a property?
For instance, somebody Saturday night commented to me that someone commented to them, they were shocked that there weren't more members, that there weren't more planning members and members of the council at the Carroll County rezoning thing. Well, it's a Carroll County rezoning. It's not a Mt.Airy rezoning. So, yes, there were some of us there to represent the town, but we all didn't have to be there. I take offense to what you're saying. I'm sorry.
I do too. Mike,
You know the drill, Mike.
I think what you have to step back and look at the legal liabilities you're putting the town in for. Not just not just yourselves and how you approach whatever the order of meetings or whatever, but if someone gets pissed and takes you to task, what are the consequences? I mean, you've got ethics and all that other stuff, but ex parte conversations don't happen in courtrooms. If they do, they get sanctioned by the judge, legally, jail time, contempt, all those things. So, it's not something to quibble about with each other, but to look at the law.
But also, this is proposed language. We can
Right.
clarify the language to, if it's helpful to people so that it's more understandable,
It just, it showed up as a missing, and then Heather was, kind enough to look and see what other communities do. So we're gonna sleep on this, guys. Thank you, Councilman King, and we'll be ready to discuss it next time, okay?
Maybe more.
It'll be a fun discussion. We're gonna do that. How's that? Okay. So under unfinished business, we have the 2018 Master Planning Commission Work Plan Goals. Heather presented this last time, and really cool. And also then, this was also sent out to all the liaisons, then took it to their councils. Oh, we can share. Yeah. So Heather was kind enough, because we always know there's lots of, we don't run there's lots of passengers in this train here. So, but we also want it just not to be something that doesn't get acted on. And then, tying it, like you guys said, when you went to that Gaithersburg ties that to all their actions, just made the clarity of it. And having this summarized like this, again, was just, wow. I could finally wrap my head around it.
Right.
Sorry, I just finally could.
There's another opportunity with this as well. This plan is as comprehensive and as strong as it is because we reached out to all the commissions. And they got to be a part of the development of this plan. And they appreciated that.
I have one, sweetie. Yes, I have mine.
And so,
I have one at home. Thank you.
and so every one of our commissions, yeah.
No, it's, Bob,
Okay, you know what?
I'm very sorry.
It has updates?
It is updated
Oh,
as of
excellent.
Oh.
February
Oh, okay.
14th.
Oh, okay, then I'm sorry.
So
Thank you.
Bob is doing exactly
Thank
what
you,
he's
Heather.
supposed to
Thank
be
you,
doing,
Bob.
so I apologize.
Okay, toss it to me again, Bob.
I got one. She did not.
Yeah, there are a few updates from other staff.
Oh,
This
Sorry,
is an
Bill.
updated one?
Now,
You
this
take
is
that.
revised as of when?
February 14th.
oh yeah, they're the page
Oh,
numbers.
it's got
Yeah,
page numbers.
They're not glaring differences, but I figure everybody should start on the same version as we go together.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
Okay.
Yeah. You didn't work on this on Valentine's Day, did you?
And we just love this.
Yes.
You guys are gonna get plotter size.
Yeah. Scott says
in the
it smells
shape
like
of a heart.
chocolate.
So it's because every one of the commissions contributed to this. And everybody has some of their goals in here. In fact, I literally went through it and over in the left-hand side of it, I literally jotted which commission, was involved with every one of these.
I
Okay?
jotted things like, what's the status of this?
Yeah.
Yes,
Exactly.
Those were good
And
questions.
therefore, if one of our priorities, one of the really big priorities is the responsibility of moving the master plan forward and progress on that, then clearly what makes sense is to be in coordination with the commissions and maybe even having different commission members of PC have a connection there, almost like a liaison, okay? And so we give them a sense, we're interested in where you are with such and such and the goals that you contributed to this and can you provide us on a regular basis updates and clarification? And then we come back and share that. It becomes a really practical way to help us understand where are we.
Right, and don't you remember when we first started the master plan, they looked at back, I guess it was 2003 master plan, and said, well, okay, what did you do? And it was, remember, it was like a dull silence in the room?
Well, this was the fifth update of Mt.Airy's master plan, when I look back and look. And all the previous ones, that's what everyone said. Well, they spent all this time and then it sat on the shelf.
That's what I remember.
Nothing happened. And MPCA and MDP are reminding us, your number one responsibility is implementing those goals and that vision. Otherwise,
Do the other commissions know that this is their role to implement these things as well? Because it can't
Not
be
sure
us
they do.
and
Oh,
it
no,
No, because
no,
Heather,
Well, the
did this get sent out
It would
to
be
the
through the liaison.
liaisons? I think
This
Heather.
is my EDC package right here.
So they have it?
Yeah, they've already
We're
started work.
meeting Wednesday night, they'll
Okay.
have it then.
Yeah, so
Okay.
all the council liaisons are supposed to make sure their commissioners
Say,
get it.
get this.
Yeah.
But you just don't know your transfer to streets and roads yet.
He's supposed to get
That,
beautification.
that
Oh,
message
no.
was passed to
Yeah,
Bob to in turn share with the liaison.
Right, right. So we decided that it would be better or more efficient for the liaisons to hand it out to their commissions, and so they can start acting on it.
They're on the council, so they're more important, so they're in charge, so they can
Right.
make sure their
Remember,
commissioners.
they get voted on.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they know.
Exactly.
Because
Because
there's,
I feel like everybody, I mean, from an organizational structure kind of thing, we can't do it all.
No.
And so, does roads and streets know they're supposed to do this stuff?
And there's a lot for them, isn't there?
there's a lot.
They have
Yes.
their own
Noticed
chapter.
that.
Right, so,
And Councilman Strong did take that to streets and
Oh,
roads.
okay.
I think there's some clarification issues that I'm following
Oh,
up on,
okay.
but it was communicated.
Oh,
Yay.
great, excellent.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing that we noticed when some of us were looking at this is some things connect very closely to the downtown master plan.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
a lot of
Yes.
it does.
I think
Yeah.
there'll be a lot of clarity. Will be
Yeah, so,
So I guess the one thing to do is to start checking on or the progress the other commissions are in filling out their part.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe
I saw, I'm like, I don't know how we
maybe
do
it's
that.
kicking off that relationship and that joint understanding, we're gonna, let's clarify again and point out, the goals that you contributed and that are in here, and then where things stand now, and.
But how do we keep this moving? I mean, how do you-
so when I think about organizational structure, I think about the town council as being the leaders. And they have their arms in every single one of these commissions. And they are tasked, so we help develop the plan, and I feel like it's the town council's job. We've got pieces in this that are part of our job. The planning commission has all sorts of pieces. But the town council is the leader who should be mandating and saying, okay, each of you commissions, report back to me on where you are with this. This is the master plan for the whole town.
Right.
Where are you with
That's
all
right.
of these things?
So why
And
don't we
so
have that
we
discussion
report
with
back
the
up to
council
them.
Yep.
and see
See,
if there's
she's the
agreement.
systems person.
Oh, yeah,
we're-
systems
yeah,
person.
we're good at- That's right.
And so,
systems
That's
work.
exactly right.
and so instead of
I
us
agree.
taking that
Yep.
ownership of trying to have everybody report back to us when we have no authority.
Right,
Mhm.
right,
Makes no sense.
right.
just recommend.
Right.
We said, this is the plan, everyone
Yeah.
agreed, all of the commissions agreed.
Everybody
Town
agreed,
council,
town council
You
agreed,
make sure
signed
this
off on it.
happens. We
Right.
got our duties in here, we'll do our part.
Yeah, yep.
So that in, let's say, the next council meeting, at the next council meeting, under the comments, citizens' comments, for instance, I could go and say, as part of,
This is what Judy said.
Right.
yeah, this is Judy.
organizational
Judy wants you to do this. As part of your report, because each one of them gives a report at the council meeting. At their report, they need to give an update as to the implementation of this.
That would be up to the council to decide how they want that reported on. In my opinion, that could be one way they could get reported, but that's their job. That is their responsibility to figure that out. And Bob goes and says, these are our tasks from the planning commission. This is where we are with
Okay.
this. And the council Bob comes back and says, council's not happy. We want you to do this, this, and this. And we say, all right, we better relook at this.
Okay.
Right, and that
Now you're
communication.
talking about assigning the town council something to do, and it's, I'm kind of gonna laugh at this, ha, ha, ha. But I would recommend against that.
He doesn't want to do it either way. He doesn't want us
But
to,
don't you think,
he doesn't want us to have our own rules. and
Okay,
he doesn't
so-
want
Right, it
us
is what
to-
it's to ask that the master plan be implemented.
How many meetings have we attended since the first of the year? Just the ones that you and I were together. My wife thinks I'm cheating on her.
It's his legs, it's his legs.
this isn't an extra meeting. This is when you go to
This
your.
is not an extra meeting.
No, it's not. It's when you go to whatever meeting
Council or
you go
liaison.
to as the council liaison. And you just kind of make sure that they're on track.
That's already been decided. I've got EDC stuff here too.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying, so you've already
It's
done it.
okay, Bob. Some of us are going to that meeting, so you don't have to worry about it.
Don't worry
We'll-
about it.
we'll-
We'll take care of it.
We'll address it. We'll address it as public,
So-
This is just
Participant.
basic strategic planning.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
our strategic
You're
plan.
right.
Right, it is.
Absolutely.
Everybody has
It's-
roles and
it's
responsibilities,
also
and the
partnering.
CEO
Yes.
And coordination.
Mhm. But if we don't, if we're not the one pushing the train, or the, and rather than being the caboose, we'll be the, whatever the front of it is, and, it's not gonna happen.
if we have to do it without the elected officials who get paid, I guess that's what we'll have to do.
The other thing when I was looking at this, can you pin a single council on, a single commission on each of these items?
Yes,
A lot of them,
A
yeah.
lot of them, yes.
absolutely.
There
That's
might be
what,
some overlap.
Yeah,
There's
there is
some
some
overlap.
overlap, yes,
Well, I
but
was looking,
that's what we did going through it.
well, I was looking at the invest in advanced technologies, and I was wondering who would wrangle that one?
Community facilities, a lot of that's Barney, actually.
There is staff stuff here as well. It's not just the commissions.
But the whole point of this was to get it out there and
Out
get
there.
it moving.
No,
Yeah.
I agree. I just, if it was in an assigning mode,
I mean, we're not assigning.
We're not
Sure.
assigning, we're just asking.
Well,
Yeah.
What the
If it
commissions
had-
were asked to do, what the council liaisons, in communicating with their
I've got Barney
commissions,
for
is
both
to
of those.
firstly
Check
identify
that's what
those
it's
areas that corresponded to each
Yeah.
commission's unique set of skills and mission. So that is what the communication was. So the commissions will go through this matrix and look at the goals and initiatives that have been adopted in the plan, and they can sort of say, hey, we have involvement in this, and we've done this, or, we can do this. So that's the first basic, very generic step to this.
And all the
So,
commissions participated in the master
Mhm.
plan.
Yeah, Bill is the.
Exactly. I mean,
Yep.
they went out and contributed to the goals. The second, rather the third and fourth responsibilities in the MPCA training certification material, the Planning Commission Board executes the municipal master plan by creating and applying appropriate implementation tools. And lastly, the Planning Commission Board implements the 12 visions for economic growth and resource protection as amended.
Which are in the state code.
Mm-hmm, yeah, it is.
Now, the strategy for getting that done, obviously, if it's participatory, and it's all the commissions and the folks who contributed to goals, and it's flowing through the council members and so forth, that's connected. That's not usurping their authority, it's saying we need your help. If we're really gonna make progress as a town on this master plan.
Oh, I absolutely don't think that we're usurping authority. I think by putting the council in charge of the plan, is
It's the way
giving
it
them
should
the
be.
authority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we agree, we all agree.
Yeah, we all agree.
Right.
I think
We agree, we're agreeing.
Okay.
Yeah.
well, and perhaps staff can, when I say staff, I'm just
You.
saying me. Barney, don't worry, Barn. I can certainly, catch up with each of the councilmen and
Mhm.
just keep that at the forefront and find out, what the
Yes.
relative progress is. So, unless Larry says something completely different.
Well,
So-
what's your reaction
Yeah,
to
well, I
this,
mean, what's your feeling?
this line of
Larry?
discussion?
Well, first of all, I'm a member of the Parks and Rec Board. There's a chairman there. He runs the board, and I report back what the board desires. As far as this goes, this can be, we have a parks manager. It'll end up going through the parks manager, and the board will discuss items, and then I'll report back what the board has discussed. In terms of helping to facilitate it, I think what I would end up doing would be going through here and picking out the things that are items that Parks and Rec can move on, that are discussed during the board meetings, and include those in my report.
Yes,
And,
That's how we see it.
That's
Yeah,
exactly right,
so,
yes.
I wouldn't be going, number
No.
one
Oh,
on
no,
page.
no, no,
No,
you
no.
pick out, you pick
But
out
I'd be
your
talking about
flavor.
Parks and Rec,
Yes.
sports fields, all that.
Mhm,
So
absolutely.
I
Well,
think that's reasonable.
That's why I asked
Yeah.
if you could distinctly
Oh, yeah.
find a
Yeah.
commission
Oh,
for
yeah.
that, because if
Yeah.
it sits in a gray area, it will not be absorbed by anybody.
Yeah, and I think,
Except- Well,
I
Bill
can't
has the
speak
last
for,
3 pages assigned to
Yeah.
Barney, but.
can't speak for all the commissions, but I would say that, you know, as I was going through this and looking at it last month, I mean, there's numerous items that we're already moving on, so.
Right.
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 So again, I mean, we're back into the communication theme, you know,
Right.
this is communicating
You guys
back to
already
you
do a lot.
and getting things, keeping things moving. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's a good document. I don't mind using it as a template, so.
Well,
And also,
Cool.
if,
Thank you.
if, you know, the Parks and Rec can prioritize.
Yeah.
It's not like we're telling you to tell them to do 1, 2, 3,
Mhm.
4 in that order. You know, it's just,
Yeah.
it's like, this is their thing, and as you know, when we were doing the master plan,
Mhm.
Parks and Rec, all the commissions
Yeah.
reviewed the chapter that was related to them and made comments and, you know.
Well, this is
so-
everybody's master plan.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and I was
Well
the
said.
chairman at the time,
Yeah,
so.
so that's a perfect description.
Bill and Heather and I ended up
Yeah.
sitting there for hours,
Very
yes.
question. Would that be like me handing this to the planning commission and saying, go ahead and implement this and let me know what you're gonna do?
Well,
That's not what he just said.
I think that you have, I don't want to put words in your mouth. All I'm telling you is that there's things in there that the planning commission's already working on, so you can pull them out.
Right,
and
that's
report
right.
on those.
That's right,
So.
that's right.
And this
Thank
has the
you, Larry.
potential to improve upon even just a once-a-year commission information exchange.
Oh, yes.
And to help us really with some significant progress, better progress toward the overall goal, which is advancing progress on the plan.
Yeah, so that last meeting that we had over at the medical center or whatever, so everyone went around, instead, if everyone went around and just said, here's where I am on
So
this
much more
plan.
information out of that.
This is
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And now we're moving forward with
We
the
can't
plan. Yeah,
I mean, look
that's
what
all.
we would have facilitated and helped to
Absolutely.
kick
Right,
off.
right.
Mhm.
That would have
But
been a better use of our time.
Annual meeting is perfect for this.
Absolutely.
You have your template.
That
Yeah.
was,
Mhm.
we were.
Your reportable
we were
goals.
hoping for this direction 3-4 years ago when we started it.
So there you
Okay,
go.
well, it's better than
Keep moving
Harrison this
forward.
year.
Keep moving
And I
forward.
think you doing this, Heather, has given us the
Oh, yeah.
template and the foundation. I think if we had to go through that big master plan and do this reporting,
Yeah.
so you doing this
These my
is
Just
huge.
really,
Well,
yes.
the other
Huge.
benefit too is their, you know, staff will sort of monitor sort of those areas that aren't being touched.
Right.
And then we can formulate, you know, well, you know, maybe this doesn't really fall into any one commission. Maybe it's,
Then
you know,
We do
it's
have that.
Barney's.
Yes.
Right.
And,
Everything's Barney's.
or
Barney, you're gonna be the fall guy.
When in doubt,
Larry's.
Barney.
Or it might be Doc O'Brien's, I don't know. It's a busy day.
Or you might
So,
ground for asking for a raise.
or, you know, maybe another task force needs to be put together to
And
address
that,
it.
that will open up with through time.
You know, especially with technology, you know,
Yeah.
the town
Yeah.
could consider, you know, a technology council or a technology task force, so.
Yeah,
You still need Wi-Fi down
Yes,
too.
very
oh, yeah.
is that okay? That's all I have to say about that.
Okay, I know we're kind of dying here, but one that also, just to put in your thought process, is a consideration of subcommittees. You know, we've done that with OPE, we did it with the sign ordinance, that's another issue. But the idea that, you know, we work, like take a flavor or slice of something that you're interested in and pursue it. I'm not interested in adding to anyone's workload, I'm not interested, and we could even have like subcommittee meetings before our regular meeting on Monday nights, so that we don't have to worry about booking another room, and we always know where we're gonna be the last Monday of the month anyway. So anyway, that's just, I'm gonna put that out there as a punt, and you guys think about it. I mean, because again, we want to get things go, you know, I know we still have the sign ordinance, and so we still have stuff we want to just, again, it was goals for 2018, getting things done. And also, you know, knowing where things are, Harrison this year. So again, so if someone out in the public asks us,
Right.
and we're not saying our opinion, we're saying what we know, our opinion, not the commission. But anyway, so that's just kind of stuff, and again, a result of talking with Roxanne and Bill and Leslie.
Well, I think it may become evident as we clarify, you know, what are going to be the big 3 or 4, you know, the big ones. And how much of that can be accomplished within our regular meeting, how much may need some extra work session time. Sign ordinance probably would, you know. If we see we're going to have some relatively efficient, short meetings,
Then definitely, it's a
can tack
no-brainer.
Yeah, we can
Yes.
tackle a work session onto it.
Yeah, it definitely, when we have a short meeting or a short agenda, that, as long as, again, as long as staff can get to it, that's a
Mhm.
no-brainer to me, because we really want to, we've got some chunks of that sign ordinance still, that needs to be addressed. Well, chunks,
Right,
huge
and when-
volumes.
And once we meet on the downtown master plan, we'll have kind of
A better
some
idea.
idea of like
What-
that
right.
piece. And
And that segues, and that kickoff meeting is tomorrow from 1 to 3.
yeah, whoever can make it.
Well, I
I
was
know.
hoping too that we'll get meeting minutes from it. Heather, is that possible? So we can just, for those who can't make it, like I'm
Yeah.
kind of a weird
I-
schedule tomorrow. I'm gonna make it, but I'm gonna be working till 8 o'clock
Okay, so
tomorrow
how
night.
many folks can make that?
I'm gonna come.
Okay, all right, cool. But then meeting minutes, if possible, or we collectively,
Yeah,
share our thoughts. and get
because,
that
yeah,
to
this is such a gem. We wanted to share with everybody.
Yeah.
And it's, I'll be, those 2.5 3 hours, I'll be working till 8 o'clock tomorrow night to make it up. So I understand where you guys are, totally.
Again, our
Now,
bet
that meeting
was,
couldn't be taped.
I think can it be videotaped, Heather?
Yeah, Monica is arranging all of those pertinents,
Okay.
so I'm gonna,
Ask her?
yep.
Okay, well, we'll find
I'm
out tomorrow, too.
Forwarding
We'll-
those considerations
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Can they live stream it? 'Cause
I know, that's what I'm,
now, wait a minute.
like, put a Facebook live stream.
That's what I was gonna say. Can we
We're gonna need a
live stream
technology
it?
task
How
force for
about
that.
YouTube? Put it on YouTube.
Can I, like, if I bring my phone, can I live stream it?
I think,
I would just defer
Maybe.
everything
To Monica.
Okay.
the
Okay.
town administrator.
Okay, well, we'll find out. Sorry, Bob? Do you want to add anything?
No,
Oh, okay, I thought your hand was raised.
Bob's not adding over here.
Oh, that's a good thing, Bob.
You see what happens when you sit over here?
I think you just miss us by being over there.
Yeah, maybe you're better off at the table.
Good thing you weren't at the table. He'd have
Maybe he's
bruises on his
safer.
legs.
He's safer over there.
Yeah, he's safer.
Okay, so just back to, just think about subcommittees, but yeah, tomorrow's the downtown master plan meeting. We'll keep you posted. Want to jump over to, if everything's okay, we'll jump over to the county liaison report? Or unless anyone want to add any more to this?
We are, the downtown master plan was, or the vendor was picked and the money was assigned, so we're ready to go with that. I guess you all know that.
Yeah, it's
Sure,
Design
no problem.
Collective, they were picked. Got to
Chili
recycle the other one.
cook-off will be happening on the 7th of April. Larry and I are meeting with groups every Sunday because it's the only day we have left in our schedule. MAMSA is going to become our official only downtown business support group.
That's
Whoa,
good.
How in the world did you pull that off?
Really?
Monica actually came to a meeting and said, that's it.
Good.
Good.
So hopefully that will change this.
Dynamic.
Oh, good.
Yes, the dynamic, that's the word I was looking for. That'll change this dynamic downtown. There'll no longer be merchants meetings. MAMSA, EDC, and the Greater Mt.Airy Chamber of Commerce, and Don Marie's gonna be attending MAMSA meetings. I'll also attend those because I'm a member, and then I will be attending, EDC, the Greater Mt.Airy Chamber of Commerce meetings. We're trying to get everybody involved in this process of economic development downtown. And once again, Mr. Hushhour has been to every one of those meetings that they happen several times during the week. And there's a lot going on with, defining everybody's role through this. But we definitely, if we're going to have any economic development and we're looking at the whole Mt.Airy economic community, or the commercial and retail community. So we're trying to pull some serious growth out here. We're working hard. And that's pretty much it.
starts with coordination.
And I know what Judy had said, she'd gone to Sykesville. I still haven't had a field trip to Sykesville, but
Oh,
my God,
there-
it is
there's
so
a-
cute
there's a
down
light
It
there.
is,
going
isn't
on.
it? Did you talk to anybody down there about what they're doing or how they've done that or anything?
We have
Oh,
It's
I
just
went
boom,
to dinner
boom,
that
boom,
year.
boom.
I didn't talk to anybody.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't, no, I
Okay.
just, and, I didn't even get a chance to walk around as much, but there is nothing around it. We have so much more to offer in this area than Sykesville, and they've made that a destination. They have these cute little pubs, and, I mean, it was just adorable.
In Baldwin
and I was
Station.
just like,
We compare, in economic development, we compare ourselves to Sykesville a lot. Sykesville shuts down their main street 7 or 8 times a day. I'm sorry, 7 or 8 times a year. 7 or 8 times a year. They also shut down blocks. Frederick does this too. They'll shut down a 3-block area. They are
Well, I
very
think-
successful events.
But it's the way that they,
The way they've
that
done it.
they
Everybody-
set up the businesses on the street though, and I think,
Everybody supports the system, okay? That's not what we have here. We sort of have a situation where economic development is great as long as you don't affect my business. As long as you don't, I don't like you shutting down the streets, so therefore please don't.
I don't think shutting down the streets is the main issue around, I'm sure it's an issue for the existing businesses, but I'm not sure that's the main reason we don't have a stronger,
Well, you have
businesses.
52 businesses that are in the downtown area, okay? And we actually got all of their addresses and email addresses the other day. You have supposedly 52 businesses down here, and, it's,
Where?
it's amazing.
Yeah, really, where are they?
It really is amazing.
But they're not
What-
the businesses that are bringing people here.
That's right.
Ah,
They're not
that's it.
retail storefront.
You're
Yes,
correct. They're not
exactly, exactly.
That's the issue.
They're not
That's-
music, they're not plays, they're not breweries on the
Right,
corner there,
right.
that beautiful big
That's,
building.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
That building down there is the
that is
perfect
key.
hub.
I mean,
Right.
that's just.
That
That
is such
building-
a key.
Well,
That would turn
Absolutely.
this town
Food
around.
and beverage is.
Yep, you're right. There are very small choices for
Well,
food
if-
and
if
beverage
the
here.
guy-
Great
there is some
restaurant.
discussion on that building right now.
Yay.
So,
Miscellaneous
Beautiful
breweries,
building.
miscellaneous
came
brewery
here.
wants
I
to,
think they came here and told us that
they want that building.
they want that, no, they came to EDC.
Yes.
Yeah,
You
not
guys
us.
confused with my commission
Yeah.
all the time.
What's
Yeah.
that? I'm sorry.
So,
Miscellaneous.
He-
miscellaneous
me-
distillery.
distilleries.
They're attempting
Oh,
to
the
buy the
distillery.
old bank building from Rock.
Oh, they wanna buy it,
Whoa,
oh, that's
whoa.
a
But
positive.
there is a caveat there. He's like, you know, I want to stay here, but there has to be things that when the people come here
To do.
to
Once
the
that building is
distillery,
rehab, there's something in it.
they need to have something else to do.
Right. Place to
Besides just
eat.
go to
Right.
the distillery.
Place to
And,
eat,
and
place
they'll
to
say,
walk.
and he said, he'll ask his people, they'll say, well, what else can we do? He says, well, did you eat? And they'll say, well, yeah, we did. So then, boom, then there's nothing. Well, right, but but that's only one thing. There needs to be many things.
Well, then walk rails of trail or something like that. Bring your hiking shoes.
Well, if it's
I
at
don't-
night, they can't do that
There's a
either.
lot of
Then I don't
little
know.
things that
Get ice
happen,
cream.
Like there's car charging stations up there.
That's a good
So
point.
now, in all of the books where they list car charging stations, they list us.
We-
Okay,
We're
and
gonna
it
get
takes,
insight from.
it takes
down
3
there.
hours to charge your car. For a 40-mile trip, it takes 3 hours to charge your car. It costs the town of Mt.Airy $1. And you're putting people down here in the downtown for 3 hours.
So they need something to do for
Yes.
3 hours.
Yeah, I would
Got 2
agree.
blocks here that they can walk and have a wonderful time.
Well, I think I think we need to better understand why everyone's not on the same page as to, because it's easy for me to sit here and say, no, chili cook-off is a big deal, everybody should want that. I don't think we fully understand why we've all heard the gripes from each of the stores as to why they may or may not like events. But I think we need to compile that information and understand why everybody is not on the same page, because it's not obvious to me. I mean, I understand why this one doesn't like this and this one doesn't
I
like
can
that.
tell you one thing I heard about chili cook-off. There's a store right over here that sells prom dresses, and it's like the weekend.
And that's their
where
huge,
people
that's
wanna
their huge season.
Go
Well,
buy
that's
prom
what
dresses.
makes
It's the same as the chili cook-off.
Okay, so to
that's
me,
like
it says
one
like
example.
2,000 extra people in front of your store.
I
but
think I
they're
can
eating
walk
chili.
us out
So-
of this conversation.
What's that?
Because we're in the mud. Okay, here's the bottom line. We've always had businesses that saw things differently concerning downtown events and everything. A lot of that is because this one set of businesses is not listening or talking to the other set of businesses. We fixed that. There's no longer merchant meetings. The MAMSA meeting basically serves as a merchant meeting to try to get everybody into one room. Now, there's going to be some resistance and growing pains. There might even be some tantrums along the way, but we're moving towards something better. And the last meeting that we had, I said, the rear view mirror is gone. We're not looking backwards.
Okay.
We're looking forwards. We got great businesses downtown. Everybody will come around, even if they sit on the sidelines for a while. When they see everybody else making money, they'll figure out a way to make money. So I see good things in the future. I'm not concerned about, somebody raising a fit right now because I know the future is good. Okay. Any fits they're raising is based on something in the past. So we're going forward. I like
So
it.
we won't talk
Okay, well,
about
thank
any
you.
of that stuff then.
Thanks, Larry.
Do what we
Yeah.
can to accommodate those people that are uncomfortable
Yeah,
with
I
it.
was just giving an example. I wasn't necessarily saying I
Well,
agree,
and
or
she's-
why they.
Ed York has given us his parking lot to use for her.
Oh, nice. Very
On
nice.
the day of the chili cook-off so that we can get people there.
That's
We
good.
can buy appointments, and I wonder how many more prom dresses she'd sell. She'd put a sign out in the
I
middle of
know, right?
the road, $100 off if you buy it today.
Well, I was a little confused as during chocolate crawl, why everybody was closed.
Yeah, I was too.
So-
I was gonna
So I
say
was
the
down
same
there
thing.
and, Blossom and Basket was open and I spent $250 in that store.
Well, and she had 300 people in her store that night, and
And the place was packed. I mean,
the council president went down there and had to wait 25 minutes to get in. Because there was no room.
Cool.
It was standing room only.
Seemed like a good night to be open.
I got there early.
I thought that was the purpose of it, to have everybody
Fire
open.
marshal wasn't there clearing out.
Wasn't that the purpose?
Yeah, that was the purpose.
But
Maybe we got the
we're
wrong
making a
people
lot
on
of
this.
progress downtown.
Okay. Okay, well, we beat this one to death, guys.
Yeah,
So,
moving on.
next planning commission date is March 26th. You've got the zoning administrator report. And next we have election of officers. So any nominations for vice chair? Please put them out there.
Go ahead.
I'll nominate Leslie.
I will graciously accept, which is what they say at the robotics
Oh, okay,
tournaments.
Okay. So all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Hi, thank you.
Unopposed. Okay. Now election for chair.
I would like to nominate the one, the only, the current chair of our planning commission, the Miss Lindy.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Did you accept?
I accept. I graciously accept. And thank you very much for your support and for
Should we
Leslie.
vote? Should we vote?
Oh, please,
Lindsay?
please vote. Let's all vote for the one and only Lindy.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so I think we've got that set for another year. Anything else?
I just wanted to say, like, on the zoning administrator's report, I know that they were concerns about, they had talked about the Chevrolet building,
Oh, yep.
and he has put up a nice
Oh, I saw that.
wooden screen, and then he's put, he's whited out, put white canvas on the front, so it looks a whole lot better. It started, I
In the-
think, on Friday.
Right, just within the last week, because
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you saw in the mayor's report, they had, he
Yes,
had
that's
talked
what-
about it.
Yeah, and it looks a lot better. Because that, yeah.
They even checked it down from the lady that lives behind them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And it's, all you see is nice fence.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
wow,
good.
that's such an
Oh,
improvement.
that's good, yeah.
Apparently he started, they took 3 dumpster loads of metal out of there
Mm.
over this last couple of days.
Do we know what's gonna happen with that, what they're planning on doing?
Well, part of the problem was he had no insurance
Yeah.
on the thing, what do you buy it for? Less than $300,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he didn't have any insurance on it, so that's part of the problem. And then he was in the hospital, and that's another problem. And, he's working on it now. Monica and Dave Rickless are gonna stay on it.
Good.
Okay.
Good. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A second?
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor say,
Right.
sorry.
Aye.
Oh, you said aye?
I just wanted one thing before you all leave here. Say a prayer for your mayor, please.
Yes,
yeah.
As somebody who needs us all right now,
yes.
you know, that's, just please.
Okay,
This is
And-
somebody that needs our love right now.
Okay, and then as your job too, to convey to Pat that we are all concerned about him and thinking about him and missing him.
I would be happy to pass that one along.
Okay. Remember,
Cooperative I am.
Thank you.
when I started on planning
Thanks for.
almost
I-
12 years ago, that's where I met Pat, so. Okay, so at this point, we're adjourning at 9 PM.